Okay, welcome to Low Code Campfire, episode number 66, September 2, 2022. This is Open Lines Friday. This is an event we hold every Friday, at least most Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time. It's just an opportunity to get together as a community to share techniques, challenges, experiences, and this is an all skill levels welcome meeting. All of our past episodes are recorded on YouTube, so we encourage you to go to our youtube.com/plantanap and to sign up for those, to subscribe to those. We run a pretty simple agenda. We'll start always with first call after we do some introductions and say hello. We'll do first call. We'll take a look at our common website, the Campfire website. Maybe spend some time on feature requests, anything you've submitted in advance. But we run this pretty informally for about an hour or so. And then after a while, we turn off the recording, go into our Afterglow segment. Anything that you were saving or wanted to ask and didn't want it to be recorded, that's your opportunity to do that. So you're welcome to hang around for Afterglow. But this is a meeting format. Engage, jump in, you can share your screen. You can do it on the chat. But do participate. Just if you've got noise going on behind you, please mute. You can submit questions and topics in advance. And I know there was at least one that I managed, one submission in advance for this week. I didn't manage to get it into the agenda, but we can still pick it up. And with that, I'll just say hello, good morning, good crew.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Jerry, I hope you're going to be around. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about where you're going to be racing this week and stuff like that, because it's getting awfully close. I'd love to come see this crazy thing.
Thank you very much. I won't keep you guys. I will be around, and I'll be in touch with you on a more personal level as the weekend goes on. But for today, I'm in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. I'm in the middle of my 10-mile cross-country run. I'm sitting on a rock at about, 3,000 feet maybe. I don't know what the background looks like. And but the wonderful things of technology is work has to go on while in the middle of training and the fun. But thank you, Dale. And but you guys continue on with the show, and I'm going to bore you for a little bit. And if I disappear, I'm going to try my best to get back during the afterglow. Man,
that's dedication to the cause. If you're breaking up your beautiful run to do this.
And I apologize and appreciate last week when I was traveling through New York. Who knew New York had such great countryside, but not a lot of technology up where I was, and I apologize for the robotic sounds and whatnot. It's just my life at the moment.
So on that topic, I grew up in the Northeast, and a lot of them were very resistant to putting in cell phone towers because it breaks up the beauty. So then you get bad service anyway. Lovely. All right. Thanks, Jerry. So perfect. We'll move right on to first call. Anybody with an episode or an issue or something that the collective brain trust can solve.
Things work perfectly all the time.
Good. Yep. I'll guarantee you this is the hardest part of my week, to sit quiet and let somebody decide their problem really is important enough for us to consider.
Well, guys, I've got a doozy. It's one that's going to have to be addressed, and it's called Google Analytics. And I have, in the process of trying to integrate with Google Analytics, I've only hit one challenge, Dale, and I feel certain me and you in 30 minutes and we'll break through it. But Google Analytics is a real thing, and we need to be able to tap into that data for 1,000 reasons. My particular reason is we have a system where people are watching videos and it reports to Google Analytics. And it's one of those dumb things where, people can go back and see they watched your video for 32% and stuff like that. Well, Google has a way to record that information and report it back to you. And it's just a query into their system. But to get access into that system, Dale, it's very, very similar to Firebase, and where they put a JSON file on our local server. And then we have to go into that file and do a little bit of authentication. Once we get through the authentication, they have an API. We call the API through our server request, and bam, a JSON string comes back, and then it's up to guys like us to parse that string out and present it to our users. As you know, I've been a little busy this week, but that's my hot point. So if anyone out there in Plant to App land is a chapter or so ahead of me in the book, I really want to talk to you next week. Again, this is just trying to get past authentication, Dale, not the actual implementation of Google Analytics, because I think each of us as programmers will have our own unique way of addressing that, but we all are going to have to find a way to get Plant to App to clear us, to allow us to use those APIs.
So Google Analytics authentication, and you're talking about, it would be YouTube videos that are being, that for your particular thing, once you get past security, that's what you're looking at, YouTube?
It's actually Vimeo videos. It reports to Google Analytics, and then Google Analytics reports to us. But we're not really concerned with how we talk to Vimeo. We're only trying to get past the authentication. And Dale, I have documentation from Google that's quite simple. And I believe any one of our JavaScript guys, I'm pretty good in C#, and I understand what they're doing in the C# side. I'm just trying to figure out how to tap into the Plant to App system, the DNN, and then get our server request to come back nicely. And once we do that, we're home free. But again, it's a little beyond the scope of this call, but it's certainly not beyond the scope to ask if any of you guys are doing it, plan on doing it. Let's work together and work through that one little authentication piece. And then I believe the rest is really easy.
So for me, when you get a chance, shoot me the documentation that you're working from, the link to that, and give me a good place to start. But it does sound like a fun little problem that I agree is common. Is there anybody that's already on the next chapter on that? Well, regardless, I will absolutely help you get there. This sounds like something that we should either know how to do and throw it in as a Campfire contribution, or if it needs to be an action or whatever it needs to do. So let's
Dale, on that topic, a Google Analytic action would be like a dream come true, but I believe it's so diverse. About all we could ever hope for a Google Analytic action from our boys would be just to get it authenticated. You pass in a JSON string on your query of what you're asking for. Google Analytics passes back a JSON string of what you get, and then it's up to us as individual programmers to parse and decode and do what we want to do. I don't think we ever have the time to go interface, so to speak, with Google Analytics. But with that said, I will say, Dale, I've watched you interface with so many topics, and it's all the same. It's different on every single one, but it's all the same. We're just trying to get authenticated, whether it's a bearer token or an API key or something. It's all the same, and that's just the little wall that we're presented with. We jump over that wall, we're home free.
Yep. So apparently, I mean, just interestingly, we were, Patrick tells me that in our live help office hours yesterday, we dealt with somebody asking about APIs. Today, again, Matt happened to have a question about APIs, and it is interesting that each one brings their own challenges, but it is the same. I mean, they're all a little bit different, but there's similarities. There is a security hurdle typically to jump over, and then you know, each API has its various endpoints with its own properties, and you got to do a little discovery to see what you're going to get, and then you take off using them. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfectly executed. Well done.
Gary, I have a question for you. You mentioned that the videos are on Vimeo. Have you looked at whether or not Vimeo has any APIs that you can access?
Yes, I have, and no, they don't.
Okay.
That was the first obvious question I asked a year ago when we built this interface, And just the short story is if they do, I'm not aware of it. And even if they did, it either wasn't real time enough, or I'm not sure, or Vimeo would not talk to us, but they do track it somehow, some way. And this is where I'm a little fuzzy, guys, but Google Analytics, you put some code on your website and it starts tracking all these crazy things. And they have these tags and ways to set it up. And that's definitely beyond the scope of today. But with that said, our engineers set it up to track certain tags based on these videos. And we know when they start the video, we know when they exit the video, and we know things like, did they stay in it? It's not percentage down to 1% point. We know if they stayed in like 25%, or they made it to 50%, or they made it to 75%. We don't know that they made it to 72.5%. So there's these little incremental blocks, and they report that somehow Google Analytics gets that based on the Vimeo video being embedded on our website. Google is clever enough to jump in there and see that somehow, beyond me, but they do, and they write that to their tables. And then it's up to us to use their API to query their tables and get that information back.
Yep. So, and since that's what they, I mean, you know, this is kind of common in that oftentimes whatever is implemented, that's what you got to move forward with. I like your question, Matt, though. What is you know, can you go to the source? I see it, Vimeo does have an API reference, no clue what's in there, but you know, in this case, Google Analytics is the problem that's been presented, and if they do it, I mean, I know there's a ton of information in analytics, and the ability to read that, whether it's for videos or for page hits or any of the whatever they accomplish, it does make sense to conquer Google. But yeah, always challenge the premise of the question, right? Go back to, hey, does Vimeo have it? And it's
right. And as you said, challenging Google, again, it really is a thing. The Google Analytics is something we should all take serious. And once again, the security hurdle is just this one little minute thing that Dale, you and I will work through. But once we've done that, and for those of us that really need it, there's just other things that Google can track about your website if you set it up properly that might be important to you. And like I said, in our particular case, we need to know what user watched what video to what point. That's all we need right now. But I see so many opportunities to be able to track many, many, many other things. So interfacing directly with Vimeo, though would have been my first choice for that particular topic, that's just that one little thing. Once we break through into Google Analytics, the sky's the limit to what we might be able to extract from their system.
Yep. Good. All right. So hopefully over the course of the next week, you and I can work on that one. What else is going on? Okay, I'm going to move on. If you have something, please don't be afraid to ask. So there was a great one that came up, and this is Patrick found the answer to this one. So I'm going to let him describe the problem and the solution.
I'm blinking.
File security for CSS, page builder.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So when you're using Page Builder and you want to edit the page CSS with Page Builder using the UI settings option there. Sometimes if you try to, when you switch to Page CSS there and you try to save that and go back in and you have nothing there. And what I found is that it's totally dependent on whether or not you have CSS as a whitelisted file extension in DNN. And if it's not whitelisted, currently we're not giving you an error message. And so we have in our development backlog, we have a ticket that is to do two things: to add CSS if you're using Page Builder to add CSS to your whitelisted extensions. And then if CSS gets removed from your whitelisted extensions, to at least give you an error message when the Page Builder CSS pops up, so that you know that it won't save. So yeah, that's
So this is the one that it needs, right? It needs to be allowed
Yes,
here in the security settings.
right.
And
Exactly.
if that weren't present, trying to edit the page CSS would just fail silently.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did notice if your file already exists, it's fine. It's just you can still write to it and everything, but if your file's not there and you need to create a new page CSS, then and CSS is not a whitelisted extension, then it will fail, and you don't get a feedback message telling you that.
It is crazy, all the little nuances, and you know, it makes, if we just didn't have to have security, then all this would be easy.
And you know, I think another important thing, because we've talked about it on the call a few times on Campfire call, is that the way when I was trying to troubleshoot what was causing that, I used the browser console network tab to look at the call that was happening when I was saving my page CSS, and that's how I saw that the file extension was the issue.
So there was a call in here. You clicked the button to save page CSS, and there was a call that didn't have a success. That had it came up in red.
Right. So if you click save on the one that you have there now, you'll see update style sheet. That call right there was failing, and then I looked at the details on it, and I saw the message saying that CSS is not an allowed file type, I think was what the message said, something along those lines.
So payload is what we're sending to it.
And the response is where I had the error.
Yeah. Yep, that's a handy tool when you're seeing things that break the network. I mean, so our on-page scripts are trying to write back to the file and failing. And when you see that error message, it was probably a light bulb once you knew where to look, right? I mean,
yep.
Once you get to the right spot, it's like, oh yeah, of course. And now come to the idea of whitelisting. But having that tool in your pocket is important. The other one, console, oftentimes errors will show up here if there's a JavaScript error on the page, and that's another one place to look. Okay, cool, good one. Love it when mysteries get solved. What do we know about the beta window? Anyone in the loop on that? I think we're starting Monday. Version 1.22 is coming out. Most of the testing items are going to be about the automation redo, which we spent a lot of time talking about that in the Low Code Cafe Wednesday. If you didn't participate, if you didn't see that, it's a good one. But a lot of questions that came. I think there's a lot of excitement and a little bit of trepidation about anytime you move everybody's everything around on the screens, there's going to be opinions. But anyway, if you are part of this group and you're not part of the beta test, and you have some time to get a look at the new version, and you want to be part of the beta, let us know. You can send me an email or put it on the chat, and we'll see if we can extend you an invitation to be part of that. Okay. There were a couple. Mr. Jim, you came off mute. What's up?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there would be an opportunity to talk a little bit about what was discussed on Wednesday. One of the things that made my ears prick up was when Bogdan was talking about the longer term vision and saying about moving the UI to a CDN. And I thought that sounds very interesting. But I wonder how that would affect people who want to host and run Lantern locally, you know, on their own infrastructure or infrastructure that they manage. Just wondered if that's something that caught anyone else's attention, or if there are any thoughts on that.
So yeah, that's an interesting angle. I have to believe that. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm not in the loop on that particular one, but I would have to believe they're going to have to provide for it. And I suspect they would naturally provide for it because the developers would typically be running in their own environment and need a way to push to, you know, to say, I'm the source for this stuff is, you know, over here versus a CDN. Yep.
No problem. Thanks.
Okay. We had a couple of contributions that I'm going to hit here. Again, if we have this campfire.plantonapp.com common place where we put stuff. If anybody in this call is not currently part of this and want to be, just send me your email address privately and I will put you on the list. But this is just a place where we can put things that whether they're big tips or small tips, we currently have 36 of them here added to the list. And so things big and small that you can reuse and not have to develop on your own. So one of the ones that was added here was a neat one, and this is Mark added. And oops, sorry. So the idea here, and the screen is a little bit small, but Mark was doing some cards. So putting out listings, and the cards were showing, and this is the default pager. So down here, it's pretty small. Maybe I can make this bigger. Let's see. That if you wanted to scroll on to the next set of cards, the pager was added here by default. So Mark wanted it to be somewhere else, and so we managed to move it over into this separate block, whatever that is for him, and got it off of the card view itself. And very clever and very easy. And so he provided the instructions and the JavaScript was little jQuery, he said. And Mark, do you have any commentary or want to take a bow on this one?
You described it very well, Dale. See, I just wanted to move things around a little bit so everything could fit on a screen without needing to scroll.
Yep.
It was nice that moving it around didn't affect the way it functions at all.
Yep. So short version is you just created a div and got it to move the item into the
Appended
div.
it to the div, yeah.
Easy, nice little tidbit. So
You know, a little thing that's going on in there too is I enlarged the buttons for the left and right navigation, and the text is all enlarged for the navigation. So just trying to give people a bigger target to hit. A little bit of CSS made that easy.
yep.
Thanks for pointing it out.
All right.
Fun little thing.
Good. The other one, I had and this was based on a support thing, but we have this file manager, right, that allows you to put in files, and the default functionality is that you can choose a file off of your system. I'm going to go to my pictures and grab one of a car that I sold. And so it's here, you submit it, and then it automatically appears in your list of browses. And for whatever reason, my pictures, apparently being left-handed, I always hold my phone upside down. and this didn't straighten that out. So, but at least it, you can see it's up there. So this is a cool thing, but from a functionality standpoint, this is just one weird little corner. I guess this could be a ghost story, right?
Yeah.
One weird little corner of our product that the file manager, we have this upload to folder. Where is this going to go? And one way to configure this is, instead of an expression, we just give you a list of all the folders in your system and you can tell it where you want it to go. You can just pick one. It's very easy. But if you want to do it, maybe you want to specify the folder, you can choose expression, and then you could put in a value like, maybe you want to put it into the temp folder ABC. Doesn't matter, but you could put a value like this, and it would go. But in this case, the client wanted to put it into a dynamic path, something that he was computing in advance. And I learned something new, and that is, in most cases, our system handles, you can provide tokens as answers to these parameters, like upload to folder. And so you could have computed, for example, the token in this on init section. You could created the token of, like, it could be based on the user or something they've done or whatever, and then stuff it into this upload to folder, good to go. It turns out that there's a little bit of a security issue because this browse folders happens in the front end. If we just allowed you to specify that folder off the front end, we would open a security hole where they might be able to browse the various content of the system throughout. That's the best I understand it. Anyway, point of the story is that this upload to folder is not, it does accept some tokens, but it only accepts, it's a subset. It's not things from your context, but you can get things from the tokens, the official configuration / tokens token, things that are not part of the context or the front end. You can get them there. So now it was a problem. Those things are things like the user ID, the date and time. You could do the result to a math problem, but you couldn't use anything that was from the front end. So we found a way around it. You can, in this case, what I did was to put the folder path that I wanted to do into a place in the database. It doesn't matter where, but I just stored it in the database, and then on the backside, built a token that retrieved it out of the database. It's kind of like pushing a location through a hole and then pulling it back through the same hole, but using what was available. A database token would resolve. So the end result then is this works dynamically. It's deciding where to store what folder we want it to browse. I can choose only one folder, and it's stored in the database and then pulled right back out of the database. But probably the thing then to remember is that we have this one instance, this upload to folder, that is an odd duck. You can't, most times you can accept any token. In this case, you can only accept tokens from the tokens manager. I've asked the team to update and add some help text that will describe this so that we all don't have to remember this and won't get confused. Also, it really wants forward slashes. Now, I tried to do it with backslashes, and you get some very inconsistent results. It will upload to the right folder, but it won't browse the right folder. So all that is going to appear in the help text going forward when somebody has a chance to poke that into the product. But forward slashes and only some tokens will get resolved. And Now, having said all that and wasted 5 minutes, did everybody already know that? And that was just my particular ghost story.
Well, I didn't know that. Dale worked that out for me. So I want to say thank you, Dale. That was the solution to the problem. And that works very well. It took a while to figure out that wasn't processing all tokens. So I'm glad you're going to put some help text underneath. Yeah, all good. Thanks for the solution.
Yeah, and we try to get that help text. Sometimes it's old, sometimes it's missing. We're working to get that better. And if you run into some particularly unhelpful help text and you want to send it my way, I will certainly get it into the product. This one, the fact that it's missing, it's unfortunate, and we'll get it. Input. Anyway, so that was.
Well, I assure you that we're reading it, and it's helpful that it's there.
Yep, and just as a reminder, and now it's going to be hidden under a small question mark in the so you're going to have to remember to hover it. But that was, again, we're working to clean up get the stuff that you're not using off the screen, and the things that you just try to get the things that you are using on the screen. And I think, judging from the energy around the questions on Wednesday, that's where the argument's going to take place, right? What's important, because we made the decision to move conditions off the screen, and there were people that thought, hey, that I need to see those. So we'll work on that. We'll have that discussion and figure out what's the right balance.
For those of you who were on that call, I realized afterwards that something I didn't mention when we were looking at that condition feature was that if you have a condition set already, you don't need to actually go back and click on the condition button. You can actually click on the badge also. So when you hover the badge, you get to see what the condition is, but if you click the badge, then it'll open it right up too. So I don't know if that sways anybody, but it does make it a little bit more convenient to access the editing of the condition. The badge is there, you click the badge, and the condition editor opens.
So it's in the tooltip and then in the editor. And for anyone that wasn't there, the theory is we're contemplating adding many good things in there that we're opening up in an editor because we want it to. We're going to add some IntelliSense into that and some other features, some smart token building into that, and so we want to get an editor, not just a text line that you edit.
The thought of an editor there is very welcome. Yeah, that was exciting to hear that on Wednesday. Sometimes these can be a little tricky, those conditions.
Well, and as Bogdan pointed out in the discussion part, that some of those things, for example, you can go, if you want to do a math, when I want to do some math, I have to go to the tokens view and look up the syntax for how to do math and copy and paste. And it's not that hard, but you got to know where to go look. And if that math, in my case, if you click the editor and you want to do math, and you can search for the function that you're looking for, and then see the parameters, you wouldn't have to go somewhere else, and that's just one less thing that you'd have to know about our product. So yeah, I finally caught up here to my this is what we were talking about, that it has this executed conditionally, and you can hover that and see what the condition is, and then you can click it and edit it. And you don't even have to expand it. That's one argument, that it's there on the badge. You don't have to expand this thing to see the condition. You can see it as you go. but the debate is whether or not this should just be expanded and visible here in the list. So I encourage you to beta it and see if you can, if this is something that it's just because it moved that it's inconvenient, or it truly is inconvenient.
You know, Dale, while you're on that subject, something that I know I need to do sometimes is if I worked out a condition on one of the actions, it's entirely possible that the second one and the third action after that might need the same conditions.
Mhm.
So we also want to keep it easy to copy the conditions down to multiple actions.
Yep. And so, yeah, it's an extra click or two. Actually, this would be a great note. What does this do? Oh, yep, all kinds of text.
Can I
Maybe a
something on
copy
that?
button in here would be useful. Anyway, go ahead, Ben. Hello.
No, I was just thinking what you were saying, Mark, about copying the same condition to multiple actions in that same stack. I mean, I have to do that, or rather, there are a lot of situations where I find that happens, and what I end up doing is I take all those actions and I put them in an execute actions. That way the condition is on one and everything's nested. So with that as an idea, what if we have, or are given an option, let's say that triple dot next to the action in that menu drop down to say, convert and insert into an execute actions action.
The checkboxes.
So one action can then be nested automatically in an execute action, and then you could put your other actions inside it.
And yeah,
And that
That's
way
a
they
great
all
thought.
hold the same condition.
In the new interface, Patrick, will we be able to drag actions into an execute action?
well,
action?
that's something we want to do. Yeah, we want to be able to drag between parent and child, but also what Dale's showing right now, I think, is an excellent use case, is that you can select the actions and then have a something like
Convert to.
or combine, convert or combine into execute actions. That would be another.
That would be great.
I think
Good idea.
both would be very useful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna something like, see, I'm just gonna mock this up while we're talking about it, and we'll pass it off to developers here.
And we get to watch.
Yeah, this has got to be real. But well, you get to watch me struggle is what you select. That's what I want to do. Select. And this is probably a much better tool than this, but we'll do. Something like that. Let me move it. Oh, yeah. So that would be fun, but the click and drag would also make it very. I would love to be able to drag things in and out of the.
And while you're
actions.
dragging actions around, it'd be great to be able to drag them from on init to on pre-init or back the other direction. That would be a really good place to do drag and drop.
Yep, especially there in the action form, because you always, there's always a little bit of experimentation about what's the right event that you want it to be connected.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And especially if you could select a collection of them, maybe not contiguously, and select 4 or 5 and drag them all together, rather than having to drag them.
Sure, cut.
Yep.
And, drag, cut. Yep.
I know that has bitten me several times where I put stuff into init instead of pre-init or vice versa.
Yep.
And after I do it, I'm realizing, I'm like, it's not working like I expected. And then I look and I'm like, oh, I put them in the wrong area. Now I have to move, export, import one at a time.
Yeah.
Ditto.
And if you go back as far, and I'm sure a lot of you go back farther than I do, that you know, before they added the export import stuff, it's like, okay, now I got to copy all this stuff and recreate it in the other place. So life got so much better when import export is. I quit, you know, quit complaining. Now we want drag and drop. So
On
Making
your
good
button
progress.
there, on your button that you created, Dale, there should be an option that says export to workflow. And take all those and copy those actions to a workflow.
Mhm.
I like it.
That's great.
So we'll do another one. So you guys don't even have to beta test it. You can just throw them out at me.
Boy, this is the meeting to be at.
Cool. What
So
else?
yeah, you guys, that presentation on Wednesday where you were showing off the new stuff, that was a really great presentation. The topics that you covered was really great, and the improvements in the product and ease of use. Nice.
I think we had one guy that was his whole, he spent his whole month on this, and it's, of course, nothing is as easy as it looks, and this looks pretty difficult, but it's all the actions and their definitions have stuff that are involved. So you know, for example, the create update tokens, when it initially came in, it didn't have our enhancement that where you could expand this token value for long tokens. And you know, there's just 1,000 details, and so I encourage you to when you get into the beta period, to take a look at your favorite thing that you do, because if there are a lot of details, and if we've missed some, I mean, it's like inevitable that we've missed something, and so let us know. I wasn't aware of all the ability to you know, where things are going to sticky header, which is so cool. You know, where this action, as you're rolling it up, it sticks around. That's going to be so cool. All right, anybody, while we're looking at this, is there something favorite you want to take a look at? Collapse all, what a deal.
Is everybody, just in case anybody on here wasn't on Friday's call, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that what this really means. It's not just that we're overhauling automation. It means a whole lot more than that. And for anybody who wasn't on the call on Wednesday, I want to make sure that's clear, that this is where we're prototyping. We're making it all ready so that we can then overhaul the entire administrative interface for grids and forms and tabs and anywhere else in configuration where we haven't done an overhaul. This is automation is where we're starting the process. So that's for anybody who missed that, I want to make sure that's clear.
And also, we're not doing it just to, I mean, yes, we want to do it and we want to clean things up, but we're also putting in newer technology, which positions us to be able to do more and let developers hire developers that are in current technologies instead of legacy technologies and all that kind of stuff. So it's important in a number of ways. But we have the good old view available. We'll keep that around, at least one version, so that you can get in and edit things and make changes. I guess probably that what I just did was a nice illustration, though, that when you switch between UIs, it doesn't save things. So you're going to want to save before, it's not like you can look at the old way and then the new way and make some changes that are unsaved. You're going to lose your changes. So make sure you save before you use that button. But the old way is going to be available. We are touching that as little as possible, meaning there was one thing that we caught that you know, you now have the ability to make an action be to be disabled. So we have this action, you can disable it. It looks nice, you know, it says disabled, got a nice cross through, it's beautiful. There was no way to do this before in the old interface. So the plan is that the old interface is going to get a minor update so that you can also disable things there, so that you, because otherwise we were in a spot where if you disabled something and then you went and looked at it in the other interface, it wouldn't show up as disabled. You'd be confused. We don't want to confuse anybody. But generally, we're not changing the old interface. We're going to keep it around at least one more version. Once the new interface is fully settled down, we'll take that one away. Giveth and taketh. Good.
So Dale and Patrick, while you were showing this off right now, you made me remember that this is gonna sound like a really dumb thing to do, but I know there have been times when I've got a large stack that I will tag one of the items for deletion just because I want it to be read. So I'm going to scroll away and do something else, and I want to come back and I want to find it quickly. And so I'll paint it red by hitting the delete so that I can find it again. And every time I do that, I think, oh my gosh, I have to remember to undelete this.
What if you forget? Yeah.
That's right. And so, you know, that's like a practical use story of, hey, we kind of need to be able to see where we are. So if there's some way you could facilitate that without having to paint it red and delete, that would be awesome.
Well, one thing that wouldn't hurt anything now and is this checkbox, right? You could visually imagine that on the stack. If we had, where's our?
See, maybe if we check a box, maybe you could paint the row a background color.
So you're saying the checkbox wouldn't be enough to visually see it, but.
Well, it's definitely helpful. I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
But look at that. That stands out. Yeah. I'm not complaining.
The problem with the checkbox as a solution, though, is it's not much different. If you're going to take actions based on things that are checked, you just took actions on the thing you were trying to remember because it was checked when you did something else.
Yep.
Yeah, good point. It has meaning.
So we're really looking for bookmarks.
Yeah,
Nice.
we are. And I
Yeah,
realized
that's the concept. All right. Well, once you get a hold of it, then feature request it.
I thought that was a button on Dale's screen that he drew. It's a
Yeah,
bookmark.
go back to your design environment, Dale. Paint a color. Yeah, you know, you spend quality time working on these stacks and these actions and stuff. And once you've been doing that for hours, you start thinking, gosh, I wish I could, you know, and it's just a silly little thing that most people, you have to spend time in order to appreciate it, I think.
You know, I've gotten into, we were talking about this button to create an action stack, which I think would, you know, to create and execute actions out of a set of actions, which I think would be important and useful. I got a look at an automation job that one of our guys created, and it had, you know, 15 actions in a row. And, you know, I've gotten into the habit of using execute actions just for the purpose Ben was talking about, being able to put in one condition on the whole thing rather than having to condition them individually and things like that. But when you're initially developing it, you might not realize that it's going to grow and grow and grow and all. So being able to easily put it into a more organized structure, which is also going to be easier to read and easier to maintain. It's good stuff.
Exactly right. Yeah, agreed.
Mouse
All right.
is double clicking. I was just going to say one last thing with the whole idea of combining into and execute actions, one thing that would be like a nice embellishment to that idea would be if, let's say for argument's sake, you drag an action from outside of that into the execute actions and the conditions match, erase the condition from the action you just put in there because they're the same. And vice versa, if you drag something out to place the condition on there potentially. I'm not sure about that second one, but you know, definitely if you have, you know, 3 actions, they all have the same conditions and you're combining them. If all the conditions are matching, put it onto the execute actions condition and erase them from the individual conditions.
Yep. That would be smart. I heard Bogdan said something about adding machine learning into all this, which might change the game. I haven't played at all in that realm yet, but that might, being able to do intelligent things like that would be interesting.
And if we want to just keep on building on all these things, what if you could just drag an action on top of another one and it automatically created an execute actions action for you? Just drag it right on top and then it creates one.
Now you're thinking.
That's kind of the Apple interface, right? You drag an action on, you drag an item onto another one and it creates a group. And
Good thinking.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Dale. I was going to say that's exactly how the Apple works. You put 2 apps together and it creates a folder, a group.
And I'm not just for the lawyers that are now viewing this 3 years from now, we're not trying to steal from Apple. Right? We're not. It's like that, but it's not the same. Yeah. Cool. All right, we have 9 minutes left. I think we've hit all the prepared topics. Is there something you last minute that you want to bring up? We could do it. Go ahead.
Jim.
Last week, Jim Anthony pointed out that new features would make the contribution for popping up a list entity by clicking on rows in the list. That could be made simpler. I've now added a version which uses that feature. It's just linked from the existing one, so you can. So if you happen to be running the newer versions, there's a simplified code for that as well.
I'm sorry, I missed out. Tell me again.
Last week we were looking at the contributions, and there was the contribution where when you click on a row, it opens another list. And Jim pointed out that new tokenized classes would make that easier. So there's now a new version which uses the tokenized class. And it's just linked from that contribution, that original contribution. Perfect.
I think just conversationally, I think it was mentioned in this meeting that there's actions that we have. Let me see if we can find one here. Read all something. Read all customers. Read all customers would typically, this is going to give you the result of this was an output token that if you look in the notes, it says that you can now use the output token name :JSON. So anytime anybody ever used one of these, the next step was that you had to use take the JSON and turn it into a list. And so I see it's on our boards as in process of QA, or perhaps it's cleared QA since yesterday. But the base token name is now automatic in a soon to be released feature. The output token name is now going to be the list. So instead of having to take the output and use the JSON to create a list, you're just going to get a list. So now you can use the list directly, or if you needed the JSON is still going to be there. And it's not going to break anything, but it is just, you know, taking one step out of what we all would normally use this action for. So I think that was originally discussed in this group, and I'm just pointing that out to say when we have these discussions, it finds its way into the product if we possibly, if we can adopt it, we do, right? So it makes a difference. All right. With that, I am just going to drop into our, we'll call that a full session. It was a good one. I'm glad that you guys all participate. I am going to stop the recording and we can drop into our Afterglow segment. Anybody that wants to hang around, you're welcome to. See you guys. We'll be doing the same event next week. Please, we'll see you then. All right, bye-bye.